Well, hello. It's about 10 minutes after 4, so thank you for your patience. I was just waiting for my little baby to chill out. She's with her papa today, my tiniest one, and I wanted to have a nice clean sound when we got started, so give them some time to settle down and do their thing, and now we're live. And today I'm not on Zoom because my computer's dead, so we're on the phone. Hopefully that's cool with you guys. But what's nice about that is I can see your comments right here. So if you are tuning in live, please drop me a comment so let I know that you're here. Tell me hello. Hopefully my comments start working. Drives me nuts. Sometimes that happens where I will go for like 45 minutes and I will see no comments. I have no idea if people are loving the content. I have no idea if it's landing with anyone. And I'm just sitting there kind of like doing my thing, crisscross applesauce, hoping that it works out. And then I found out later that there's like 100 comments or 300 comments or something crazy like that. So I see no comments yet, but it's all good in the hood because I have about 1 billion things to say today. So I'm curious, for those of you who are here for day 3, how's it landing? Every single month in this space, I endeavor to bring a free piece of masterclass content for women who think like me. My own wealth journey, my own wealth trajectory started with listening to a ton of free content. And I know that I'm now a multi-7-figure earner. Our brand is just about to the $3 million mark. We did just about $1 million in sales since Maeve is born, a little more than that, which is really fun. And I know that I started with a ton of free content. And I believe in women the way that I know that someone believed in me. I think that there's people who start with free and they get started where they can get started. And I honor that so much. I also know that my own buying pattern is that I watch a lot of people's free stuff to find out who I want to walk with next. I've now walked with close to 26 different mentors, and a lot of the way that I find who's a good fit for me is by watching free content. And so wherever you're at in your wealth journey, I create content for you to come in and tap in. Now this particular group is kind of famous for people finding us and then going back and binge watching all the old content, because every single month, we are over a year now worth of content. Every single month I put in a fresh piece of content for you to tap into, and our guide section is chock full of free masterclass content. So there's people who will join today and have joined over this weekend, and they're finding us for the first time and they're going back and binge watching, and I'll find comments all this week of people who are watching stuff from a year ago, and it's just a total vibe. So this is a place that is curated for you to tap into completely free. This is a place to come in and get inspired. There's tons of content to go back and just freely binge, freely consume. Come in, get your daily dose, and go out there and make a difference. So that being said, for those of you who were here for the first few days, the first 2 days, and this is your day 3, how's it landing? If you see my content before, does this feel different to you? Does it feel like a different level? Because that was my hope going in. There's a side of me that I think I'm ready finally to fully share with people. And it's the side of me that absolutely loves to talk about money. And that conversation isn't for everyone. But I do feel strongly that if you were magnetized to this conversation, it was meant for you. So whether you're triggered by people posting about money on the internet, or whether you're very inspired by it, either way, you're on the frequency of wealth. And so this conversation might be coming to you at the right time because you're ready. That being said, some of the content that I've shared yesterday and the day before and what I'll say today, it's not for everyone. This is definitely not for the person who's committed to staying in debt cycles. This is not for the person who's committed to budgeting their way to success. This is not for the person who is available for cock blocking themselves from their desires. This is not for the person who wants to like monetarily diet for the rest of their life and they're just committed to suffering. Today's training is not for the person who likes having someone to blame. Today's going to be a big girl conversation about money. And if something about this feels ick to you and panicky and crazy, I kind of want to let you in on something. Your triggers are typically a sign of where your desires are sitting. So if there's things that I say today that just rub you and you're like, ah, I invite you to look at it and see if there's a hidden desire underneath that. Okay. So if you're available for a big girl conversation today, will you please write in the comments, I'm ready for the big girls table. Pull up your seat at the big girl table, the big money table, the wealth accumulation table, the success table. Let me know you're ready. In the comments, you can say, I pull up my chair. And if you choose to pull up your chair, just know I might turn the heat on. It might not be all rainbows and sunshine, but it wasn't for me on the way here. People who mentored me, they told me tough things sometimes that helped me to know where I was being a victim, where I was letting my trauma run me, where I had loops and patterns around money and people and relationships and even my marriage. And so if you're pulling yourself up a chair at this table, just be ready. Gonna turn the heat on. But I'm also gonna call you higher. So if you're ready, just throw me a comment. Let me know that you're pulling up your chair at the big girl table. And if you don't comment that, then you're kind of here at your own risk, okay? I told you don't come here if you're not ready for this. This is going to be a 7-figure conversation today. Okay. So speaking of that, the whole reason that this particular masterclass series came forth is because my husband Brad and I have an unending conversation in our home. Our kids were born wealthy. I was very aware when I was pregnant with Sloan, who's about to turn 3, I was very aware that I was about to birth a child who was going to be born rich. While I was pregnant with Sloan, I had already gone through the 5 years of, super wounded masculine paradigm, budgeting, suffering, withholding desires, withholding any type of opulence, the debt diet mentality. We did that, and then I got pregnant with Sloan, and my mind was already made up that I was not available for that life. And I want to talk about that today because it matters if you're in a relationship, because there's more than just you to consider. Okay, so I was already fast on my way out of that life. I decided I could not live like that anymore. I would not live like that anymore. And I was going to do whatever it took for me to never have to do that again. So as I was pregnant with Sloan, I hired my first private mentor. So in the comment section, this is key number 1. I hired my first private mentor. So write number 1, private mentor. That was number 1. Instead of attending conferences where one speaker was giving a broad message to 1,000 or so people from a stage, and then me trying to weigh and measure and sift and gold mine for the thing that was supposed to be for me, and taking everything so personally and trying to figure out what was the advice that I was supposed to follow for the next 6 weeks until the next conference. I just said, enough of that. I actually need curated advice from one person who's uber successful on the path that I wanted to be on, and I wanted someone that I could freaking talk to on the phone or in between trainings. So while I was pregnant for my daughter, it was actually the week that I got pregnant for Sloan, I hired a private mentor. So that's key number one. For wealth accumulation, for me, that was key number one. And I'm just going to tell you what worked for me. Key number one, hired a private mentor. And that particular private mentor walked me through sales processes, copywriting, branding, so many things that I walk my clients through today. And I made an internal gut decision that I was only available for wealth for the rest of my life. So while I was pregnant, I made $100,000 cash. I bought my first Land Rover for cash. My husband bought it with a debit card while I was on a business trip. He said that the dealership was mind blown. They said no one had ever bought a Land Rover with a debit card before. They were like, sir, you can't pay for this with a credit card. And he was like, no, it's a debit. And they're like, we don't think that that's going to work. And he was like, let me try putting in my PIN. And everyone in the dealership stood around and watched him put his PIN in on, bated breath and watched it say approved. And he left the dealership with a Land Rover for cash. I chose that while I was pregnant. And I knew that when I was pregnant for Sloan that she was about to be born rich. I knew that my daughter was going to have a very privileged lifestyle. And so there's a constant conversation in our home about how to instill values in our children. Because neither my husband nor myself had generational wealth passed to us. If you were here for day one and day two, you know that I had an incredible wealth mentor as a child, my stepdad, but none of his wealth was passed to me. So as an adult, I had a hard financial reset and I built all my own wealth. But our kids are going to be different than that. Like our kids, they're born wealthy. It's a different ballgame. And so my husband and I have an endless conversation about my own values, how they got instilled, his value system, and how to pass that to our kids. Because they don't have the same history, struggles that we had that bred some of this into us. And so almost, I would say probably 3 nights a week, my husband and I are making dinner together. We're talking about the day. We're talking about our clients, our lives, our families, our brands, our money, our wealth trajectory, and reverse engineering how to pass this to our kids. And also, because I mentor women in business, we are always analyzing why we, Brad and I, are successful. As a wealth mentor for women, I find myself personally responsible to reverse engineer how and why success happened for us so that I can teach my clients and tell the truth. Is there anyone here who's a little bit put off by watching the coaching industry or the direct sales industry and people acting like everything happened easily? Have some of you fallen for this message of like, it gets to be easy? And you have fallen into maybe the pattern of feminine energetics, which I went really deep on yesterday, of ease and flow and indulgence, and it's kind of not led you to a path of success. And maybe you go down that rabbit trail for a few months or a year and you find yourself more broke than you started. Anyone? So personally, I've seen these patterns of the wealth energetics of the masculine, the wealth energetics of the feminine, and my husband and I are constantly reverse engineering to see like, why are we where we are and what made this happen and how can we show our clients and how can we breed this into our kids? How can we instill these values and pass them on? And so in this conversation recently, my husband, he said, you have this trait about you. Speaking to me, you have this trait about you that you are incredibly good at knowing that it's only really hard for so long before it gets really fucking good. He said, I watched you do it with pregnancy, My husband was there. He watched me give birth to both of our daughters with 0 pain medication at our home, because that's how I chose that I wanted to birth. He watched me work out my entire pregnancies with both of my girls and do the things that, energetics would say are hard things to do. I have an incredible work ethic when it comes to my brands. If I can be perfectly honest, today I've had a headache the whole day. And also, I made a commitment to be here, and I want to be here, and I love it. And so my work ethic is like, yeah, I have a headache. Worse things have happened. I'm passionate about this conversation, and I said I would be here, and here we are. My husband's like, you are phenomenal at knowing that things are only hard for so long before they get really good. If you're live and you're available to type, can you please write that down and take that on as your own affirmation? It's only really hard for so long before it gets really good. It's only hard for so long before it gets really good. For some of you, you've never experienced that. And you're like, cute affirmation. Cute, love it, not. And some of you are here and you've brought the chip with you on your shoulder into the conversation. And you're like, yeah, but you don't understand. My life is really hard. I get it. I get it. How many of you caught yesterday? Show of hands in the comments. Let me know if you watched yesterday. Or just give me some hearts if you watched yesterday. I felt like yesterday had to be the groundwork for today. And if you're brand new to this group, I want to welcome you with all my heart. And I also want to say, you've got to go watch the replays. I would almost say, go back and rewatch day 1 and day 2 before you come in here. Because you need context. Yesterday, I talked about how your wealth mentality, your money mentality, it comes with you as a result of how you grew up. And for some of you, just hearing that gave you somebody to blame. Well, lucky you, Xtina Harmsworth, your parents taught you something that I don't know. Lucky you. Good for you. Okay? Yep, I hear you. But I taught what I taught yesterday because I've studied this year with one of the most phenomenal minds and received something that's called a trauma-informed entrepreneur certification, which really means I did a lot of healing work for myself, and I understand a lot more deeply why people choose what they choose and say what they say and get activated by what they get activated about money, around business. And I taught what I taught yesterday to kind of demonstrate to you and show you and give you an awareness of where you might be at in terms of masculine paradigm around money or feminine paradigm around money, wounded or empowered. Because there's an opportunity here to reparent yourself. So success key for accumulating wealth was number 1, hiring a private mentor. And I've had like 26 mentors now since 2019. I consistently have mentorship, and I consistently have opulent mentorship. So more than one mentor at a time. I have mentors for all different kinds of things. I have mentors for intimacy, for money, for wealth, for copywriting, for business, for whatever I feel like I need some support in, my body, my health. I always have mentorship. It's one of my pieces of opulence. So success key number one was hiring private mentorship, people that could speak specifically to me, my situations, my own issues, and give me clear-cut pathways, okay? The second piece here is reparenting myself. Ooh. I gave a warning before I came live and I said, if you are committed to blaming your partner, your spouse, your boss, the economy, or your parents for where you are sitting today, like, this is gonna be eye-opening. You have the relationship that you have to money, in part because of how you grew up, because of how you were parented. Many of you have an aversion to work because you had to work really hard growing up and you didn't feel like it was rewarded. And so now you are the adult and you start hard things because you know that you're capable of hard things and you've done hard things before and you think that hard things are the answer. But now you're the adult and you start hard things and grown-up you says like, I'm the boss now and I don't have to fucking do this. I quit. And that's your reparenting method, letting yourself off the hook because no one would let you off the hook. You had too many responsibilities as a kid. Does this land for anyone? There are people here who have the possibility of reparenting themselves around money and work ethic. Are you ready for some grown folks conversation? If you are, type I'm ready for it. You have the blessing of an opportunity right now, today, 2022, 2023, to reparent yourself around money. To recode how you act and interact with and around cash. If you had a lot of hard work and too much responsibility and no payoff as a kid, guess what? You get to give yourself opulence now. You want to know how to recode this? This week. This week, even today, do something that challenges you. Do something that makes you uncomfortable. Do something that scares you a little bit. And when you do it, reward yourself fast with opulence. There's going to be a big temptation if you've ever done a debt diet or debt cycling, or like you have like the lack mentality of like, well, I haven't really earned anything. I haven't really done anything that important. I didn't even finish the project. Like I just worked at it for a couple hours. It's not even complete. I shouldn't even get a reward yet because it's not done. Go back to training number 2. When my parents bred this, instilled this work ethic in me of like, it's only really hard for so long before it gets really fucking good. My parents didn't make me landscape the whole yard for a month, and then when the yard finally looked good enough, then I got a surprise or a treat. It was like we worked for a good long day. Set amount of time. And at the end, there was opulence. It wasn't after a month or after a year or when you're good enough or when you've proven yourself or any of that masculine energy paradigm. It was like, you did a great job and here you go. You took yourself to a really high level of attention to detail, commitment, stick-to-itiveness, which is not a word, but you know what I mean. And at the end of the day, opulence. We discussed the difference between actual opulence and just being like, oh, I'll just watch Netflix. Like, no, you don't ask yourself to do incredibly challenging things that scare the shit out of you and then go from like that level of like boringness and frustration or nervous system ramp up to just going like, oh, I'll go watch a TV show. Like, that's not opulence, friend. If you look up the word opulence, it's like riches. It's indulgence. It's pleasure. Sitting on your couch is not that opulent. Binging Hulu series is not that opulent. But there's opulence for each person. And for me, there's a ton of different levels of opulence. Going on this trip this past week to Mackinac Island and staying at a hotel that there's only 11 like it in the world. It's a designer hotel. It's like the thought process behind this particular hotel, when you look at it, it recently changed hands. It was family owned for generations and generations, and then recently a corporation bought it, and they brought in this guy from HGTV who tried to turn everything kind of tan. And he was like, why the hell is it like this? Like, why are there all these colors everywhere? Why is there black and white checker floors and gold statues and green velvet couches and purple and pops of pink? Like, why is it like this? Why does it have to look like this? Like, why do people even enjoy this? Why do people come here? He didn't fucking get it. It's like, number one, that's like high levels of feng shui. Those colors invite wealth and opulence. And finally, someone had to just explain it. It's like, okay, let me help you understand the design of this hotel. Let me help you understand, friend, okay? If it were your birthday and you had the option, you've got 2 presents, everyone tracking? Present number 1 is wrapped in brown paper. Brown paper wrapping. Remember, like, in the 90s when you did that to your school books? Did anyone else do that? Wrap the book in paper bags from the grocery store? Brown paper wrapping, like that, okay? You can either get brown paper wrapping, which is gift number 1, or you can choose birthday gift number 2, which has colored paper, bright popping colored paper with fireworks on it, tied with a bow, and fresh flowers on top. You only get 1 birthday a year. Which do you pick? Brown paper, pops of color, ribbons, and flowers. Opulence vibes. Over the top. Riches. More than enough. Turn on. Pleasure. Desire. Indulgence. I pick gift number 2. Why? Because it's my gift and I want to enjoy it. Some people might really truly like brown, so maybe they would pick number 1, but like, what one would you pick? So the hotel that we just went to for like a vacation getaway, the whole interior is designed with that ideal in mind. If people are going to have a getaway and go to a retreat location, and they're, a lot of people only do this once a year or whatever, and they're ready for indulgence and opulence, it's going to feel like bright popping lights and candy and fireworks and fresh flowers and ribbons and velvet and all the things. 5-course meals, people waiting on you. Opulence vibes. Are you tracking with this? Is this making sense? So in the reparenting concept, it's like opulence means different things to different people. Sometimes opulence for me is the ability to just leave during the middle of the day and go lay in a red light therapy bed. And I bought the unlimited package at my local spa to do the steam treatments and the UV treatments and the red light treatments and the teeth whitening and all the bullshit that I feel like doing. And to me, that's opulent. It's environmental and it's indulgent. That's one level of opulence. Another way of opulence for me is actually walking in the woods, because when I see that many trees, and that much abundance, I'm actually reminded by nature that there's no such thing as lack. That the news and culture and economics can talk about lack all day long and a recession. And I actually know the truth, which is that nature shows me every time that I go out into it that there is no such thing as lack. Abundance is everywhere. It's nonstop. The same stuff that is growing trees up for the ground, that same energy lives within us. We're in a constant state of growth and evolution that we get to tap into, or not. But I choose abundance and I choose opulence. I choose more than enough. I choose yes. There's not a lot of space for budgeting when you believe like that. But there's a higher category of opulence, and that is putting yourself in 7-figure plus environments. So the reparenting of yourself around money has to do with actually developing a work ethic and giving yourself opulent rewards fast and often. My husband tells me, you're so good at doing hard things, and you have this way of knowing that it's only so long before it gets fucking good. He's like, you're so good at sticking in, staying in it when it's tough, because you know that it's only going to be hard for so long before it gets really fucking good. That's how you reparent yourself to have a work ethic. Invite yourself to do challenging things. See what you're made of. Know that you can walk with actual discomfort and push on it. You don't know what your limits are if you never push on them. I teach this to my private clients all the time. You don't know what your limits are until you push them. And then when you find them, you take really good care of yourself. You do not know what you're made of until you push on it and find out. And once you've done it, you give yourself opulent rewards. Allow yourself to be part of big places and big conversations. Go places where there's opulence in the walls. There's reasons for the locations that we even do our retreats at, because I am convinced that when you go and you put yourself in places, physical places that have magic and manifestation, and they have held billion-dollar conversations, there is an opulence factor available that you get to calibrate to. I'm convinced that eating certain foods prepared by certain people, being in high-quality estates, designer hotels, and even pairing it with huge conversations about wealth, like there is an opulence level that you get to calibrate to. And that to me is a reward. And it's also a compelling tool for me. So whether you're on the feminine side of the money spectrum and you're very much into receiving mode and you kind of hate hard work and you're like, when it gets overwhelming, I feel like I want to cry and I want someone to rescue me and I'd rather someone hand me this stuff because it's too hard to do on my own. Okay, if you're on that side and you heard that yesterday and you know that you've got maybe an availability to push on that a little bit, I want to invite you to actually reparent yourself around this topic. Maybe your parents, they didn't make you do hard things and they rescued you every time that you cried. If so, this is probably a tough conversation because you're like, well, I can't blame anyone anymore because now I know. Good. But if that's you, I want you this week, even today, to push on that a little bit and give yourself a challenge. Do something that is really uncomfortable. And when it's complete, today, give yourself something opulent. Something that makes you feel rich. In desire. Pussy tangles, right? You want stuff that turns you on. Makes you want to go after it again. This is rewiring with pleasure. You do challenging things and then you do something that turns you on after. And then it becomes hardwired that, oh my God, I get rewards when I do hard things. Let's go do some more hard things. Let's go challenge. Let's go push on some stuff. Because I know I get rewards. This is how I parent myself around money. My parents modeled it for me. And then I had some mentors that gave me some really wonky money beliefs about, you know, like very, very wounded masculine, you know, budget hard, proving energy, live like you're in lack until you become rich, which doesn't work, by the way. The people who do that still have a lack mindset. Even when they become rich, they still have funny, wonky stuff around money, and it's very clear. Even they are ashamed of their money once they get it. It's bizarre. They try to hide it, sleep with their money in a mattress. It's very bizarre behavior. Like, I'm not available for that. So my first wealth mentor showed me this. Hardwiring hard work with indulgence. And the indulgence was like, oh my God, what a turn on. I love my life so much. If this is what I get when I do challenging things, let's go do some more challenging things. The opulence triggers and turns on work ethic. And the work ethic is rewarded with opulence. And then the opulence feeds the work ethic because you're like, whoa, I want more of that. And then the work ethic gives you more opulence. It pays for the opulence. You have more opulence and you're like, I want to take this even higher. Give me more. You experience what it feels like to have opulence. And you're like, oh, I'm more than happy to work for more of that. You work for more of that, the opulence goes even higher. And it's a cycle. This is how wealth is accumulated. Eventually you get to a point where you're doing things that are challenging enough that there's so much overflow that you're like, wow, even when I do the most opulent things, there's so much money left over. Now what? Wealth accumulation is bred from reparenting yourself around money and learning to stack cash, stack assets. Let the opulence turn you on. Let the reward turn you on. Let yourself get excited about life. This is the thing that I just absolutely cannot get behind around the budget mentality. Let me know if this is landing for you. If you've been someone that did an extreme budget or the Dave Ramsey shit or the Susie Orman shit, like, God bless them. I'm sure they help someone, but like, if you've done those things and you found yourself feeling like you're never gonna get anywhere, you're like, yeah, like doing the debt snowball and I fucking hate my life. Okay, if you've been there and it didn't work, can you open yourself up to a different way of being? Where you actually get opulence the whole way to wealth? I can't get behind this thing of like never rewarding yourself until you're debt free or like living like you're in poverty until, because it's like an extreme diet. Okay, so the things that people feel around money are similar to how they feel around food. If you feel that you have no self-control around food, then you'll do strange restrictive things to yourself, like go on an extreme diet. Some people do surgeries where like, you know, your stomach gets like this, like banded, so that literally you can't overeat, right? So people do things around their money so that they can't overspend. And sometimes that helps people learn, you know, different values around money and food, but for the most part it doesn't, because they haven't reparented themselves around desire. They haven't learned how to do the challenge and then also land the nervous system and experience opulence and reward. They're not working with desire. They're working with limit and lack and limitation until the day when they're like, I can't stand this anymore and I just have to experience the feeling of having what I want. And then they overspend or oversplurge. I don't believe in these things. Like the debt elimination diet, I don't believe in it because it doesn't teach you about your desires. It doesn't teach you how to walk with polarity. It doesn't teach you how to walk with duality. It doesn't teach you how to do challenging things and reward in ways that actually are healthy. You're always working from lack and negative. I can't get behind that. Can you see the parallels? But what I can get behind, and this is only for people who are committed to becoming rich, because if you're not and you take this advice, you're going to get yourself in a lot of trouble. Okay? Same with the diet. Okay? They're hand in hand. They walk hand in hand. I'm going to use food as an example because like it kind of gels, okay? If you want to learn how to enjoy gourmet, amazing, indulgent food, and you want that experience, you want the opulent food, you want that feeling, all 5 senses turned on. You can have that. And also, you've got to have the masculine paradigm of, okay, so there's going to be some structure somewhere else. You have to have the willingness to learn how to structure the way you eat, the way you move your body, and what times you do these things, and how committed you are. And the structure allows for the opulence. You could literally have opulent food every day of your life if you learn structure, which allows you opulence, and you indulge in the opulence and you're like, holy shit, that was good. I want to do that again. And I know that how I got this was with the structure. So you go back to the structure and your reward is the opulence. You want to eat dark chocolate every day of your life? Learn what to do during the day so that you can eat dark chocolate every night. And when you get that reward, be like, oh my God, that was so good. I would do that tomorrow. If what it took for me to have chocolate every day of my life was just to be more structured during the day, I will be structured every day of my life because I love my chocolate. Okay, can you see it? But most people are in a lack mentality and they're like, I'm just going to hardcore diet until the day that I can't stand it anymore. And then I'm going to make myself sick eating chocolate. And then I'm not going to stop. Because they haven't learned both sides of the coin. They haven't learned the masculine and the feminine, the structure and the opulence, the diligence and the opulence. Money is the same. So many people want to operate from lack and they go like, I'm just going to white knuckle it. I'm going to buckle down. I'm not going to give myself anything good. And I'm going to just pay off this whole damn mortgage. I'm going to pay off this car. I'm not going out at all. I'm not buying any coffees. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. Like, I'm just going to buckle down until one day they go bananas and go into Target and spend $800 on shit they really didn't even need, and it's back on the credit card. And there's really not that much opulent about that. It's like a meh experience. So what I'm going to say next, this isn't for the person who's like committed to this like cycle of like lack, debt, paying off debt, fucking around with debt, villainizing debt, okay? I'm going to say something that is only for people who are committed to becoming rich in this life. Like, you know you're meant for wealth. You know you're meant for riches, okay? I'm going to say something wild. Stop villainizing debt. It's like a dieter. Stop villainizing chocolate. The real wealth mindset knows that debt is not even a freaking problem. It's a tool. Okay, surprise. Pull back the curtain. I've used like $200,000 worth of debt for my business. Actually closer to 3 now that I think about it. I used debt to fuel my brand on the way to becoming multi-7 figures. And like to this moment, I have no debt, but like if an opportunity came up and I didn't want to use my cash, 100%, if someone would give me a loan for $10 million, I would fucking take it. If I could get approved for $10 million on debt, I'm so confident in my ability to make cash that I would take it like this. Right now, at the click of a button, I can get $187,000 flushed into my account just based on how I've used and paid back debt recently. And I don't bat an eye about it. If I feel like doing it, I'm going to do it. Because I don't villainize debt. Debt's a tool. And if it can give me a life of opulence on the way to more wealth, I will gladly take it. Having opulence, art, beauty, high frequency, access to big conversations, multi-7 figure, 8 figure, $1 billion conversations, if you can use debt as your pathway to have an opulent life on the way to creating even more wealth, if you know that you're made for this, debt is not the enemy. Lack is the enemy. Budgeting and hating your life while you try to build wealth is the enemy of wealth. Whatever you wage war on, you get more of. If you wage war on your credit cards, and that's your central focus, you will create more attention towards credit cards and you will stack up more issues with credit cards. This is why there's this weird cycle. When you're operating from lack and that's what you're focused on, you will create more lack. It's like a yo-yo diet. When you are obsessed with fat loss and diets and not giving yourself your desires and never learning how to play with desire or indulgence, and you don't indulge, you can go only so long of hating your life and walking in lack and restriction before you just blow it. And this is why people go out of debt and into debt and down on the scale and up on the scale. There's a reparenting involved. There's two sides of the coin. There's masculine structure and there's feminine indulgence, flow, desire, fun, beauty, experiences. You can have both. And I will vie for people having both. In my opinion, the reason that a lot of women quit their businesses is because they're trying to build something iconic without ever feeling iconic. They're trying to create multi-6 and 7 figures, 8 figures, but they never get to experience what it feels like to be the person who is doing this and who has done this. Also, my opinion, I think you can hack the system and you can create wealth faster by putting yourself in opulent environments. As a success strategy, so we've talked about hiring a mentor, we've talked about reparenting, okay? Thing number 3 is stop villainizing debt. Use it as a tool. Okay, but the 4th thing is I pay for opulent environments because they trigger me into success. I'm going to give you some real ways that this happened. And then if you'd like, I kind of want to talk about relationships too. I have a couple things to say about walking with a partner who doesn't agree with you here. Would that be helpful for anyone? Because I did something really sneaky. I really want to talk about So if you're down for that, you can write sneaky sneak. And I do want to talk about relationships a little bit because it kind of leads to where we're going. This ring light is kind of bugging me. I'm going to drop it down a smidge. Okay. So here's the thing about paying to put myself into these big conversations. So today you're in a big girl conversation. You're around the big girl table. We're having a big conversation. This is a multi-seven-figure conversation. Okay. So when I didn't necessarily have the money on hand to do it, but I knew that I was on the way to making $10 million years. That's my personal conviction. That's my next move. This is what I'm on the path to next, is $10 million cash years. That's my next wealth trajectory. That is where I'm irrevocably going with my life. I'm certain it will happen through many different channels. I'm certain that money will flow to me in many different ways. I have some idea of where it will come from. But that is my trajectory. Please write trajectory. I knew that my wealth trajectory was made for 8 figures as a brand. And I also have this thing called the 10X rule. So as someone who is on the journey of success and wealth accumulation, whenever I make a personal investment or a business investment, I ask it with my intent to pay me 10 times what I invested. These are the opportunities that I look for. I look for conversations to be in. I look for masterminds to be in. I look for tables to be at. I look for mentors to walk with. And I lead myself in these conversations because I go in with the intent of 10Xing my investments. And I've done this back to back to back to back since 2019. Knowing that is my trajectory irrevocably. If you're here live, I want you to get this in your bones. Type irrevocably. 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 Without the possibility of turning around. Irrevocable. I irrevocably commit to becoming an 8-figure brand. That's my next move. And so knowing that, I didn't have necessarily $150,000 to spend on mentorship in the last year. And also, I spent $150,000. I used financing as a tool to put myself in high-level, next-level opulent conversations with people who were ahead of me and some behind me, and both of them lit a fire because the people ahead of me showed me, wow, holy shit, that's what you do? Cool. And the people behind me lit a fire because I was like, if I don't actually move and activate on this, the people who walked in behind me are going to be ahead of me in a year. And that does something to me. It inspires me. It makes me want to be great. It makes me want to push my own limits and see what I'm made of. It makes me want to reward myself more. Debt is my tool on the way to more success. So I think I got a loan for like $150,000 last summer while I was pregnant with Maeve. It's paid off. My net worth is way higher. Because the lack mentality is consumed by debt. And the wealth accumulation mentality is consumed by net worth. Every Sunday we have a board, like a whiteboard, and we consider all of our accounts. And when we had debt, we put our debt numbers on there, and we looked to see what our net worth was. And my goal every week of my life is how to increase my net worth. Cash assets stacked against any debt if there is any, which currently there's not. My life principle is to weekly increase my net worth. I do this while indulging in opulent things. Because the more opulent environments that I put myself in and the more opulent experiences I have, the more sustainability I have to keep on pushing the limit. Is anyone else getting this? Maybe for the first time. The indulgences help you stay in it. The rewards help you to push the limit. You are hardwiring yourself to do the impossible with pleasure. People quit because they cock block themselves from experiencing the desires of their heart. And if you know scripture, hope deferred makes the heart sick. Yes, I quoted scripture next to saying the word cock. Sorry about it. That's who I am. You can't block the reward for months and years and expect yourself to stay passionate. There's a tiny part of the population who's capable of this, and like even them, I've watched them crack. I watched them quit. I watched them blame their kids, God, you name it. I've seen it so many times where people who are multimillionaires all of a sudden get a word from the Lord that their business is done. And I'm like, I really think you might have just had a mental break because you haven't done anything nice for yourself in years. Or they blame their kids. And I'm like, well, you always had kids. You could have had all the money in the world and your kids if you would have learned both and. Diligence and reward. The masculine and the feminine energetic paradigms working together, which is actually the wealth paradigm. You can have it all. Hardwired with pleasure and opulence, art, beauty, high vibration. Now, I want to say something about relationships because, truth be told, when I came back to my senses on this topic and realized that this high-level budgeting strategy and this like anti-debt philosophy and scrimping and saving and living like you're broke so that one day you can be rich and putting your nose to the grindstone and suffering incessantly for like 6 months to try and get 5 years ahead, when it finally hit me that this was killing me, and this is not how I grew up, and I really returned back to my North Star, I was in deep, married to someone who was in deep on this philosophy. And we had a lot of hard nights and days hashing this out. Because in about 2018, and pretty much along the whole way, you know, my husband and I, we were co-founders of our first brand together when I was, gosh, I would say we were like 2015 when we incorporated. And we were living this life of like extreme sacrifice, and we were in so much debt and just white knuckling it for someday, you know? And I realized that like, I wasn't down for that. Like, I wasn't like that before I met him. Like, I wasn't available for it. Like, I've always indulged in art. I am an artist. Visuals matter. Scents matter. Like, I can't get turned on in certain rooms. It's like, the sex life is not going to be a vibe if we're freaking, you know, in a crappy environment. I'm not going to be happy if I'm in a crappy environment. Like, aesthetics matter. Indulgence matters. The food I eat matters. Don't want to eat fucking beans and rice. Sorry, bro. Like maybe with my high-end taco and margarita, but like that's about the vibe. I just wasn't here for it. And my husband was convinced that if we just suffered a little bit longer and like put off what we wanted for a little bit longer, that in 5 or 10 years, we were going to look up and we were going to be so successful. So about like 4 years into this, I was like, I can't fucking do this anymore. Like, no. Is anyone else at that point where you're just like, no? What's the point of suffering that much? Just no. So for context, at that time, I was building our first brand and we were not at 7 figures yet. Okay. And he made about $60,000 a year. And we were living off of his income and we were using his income to buy coaching and all these different things. And the profit margins on my beauty business were not that great because I didn't have a private coach and no one was actually looking over my shoulder and teaching me about profitability, which, by the way, is the first thing that I walk my clients through in places like Locked and Loaded, because I never want a woman building a non-profitable business for 3 to 5 years like I did, because that sucked. Okay. So I didn't have a private coach telling me like, oh, your profit margins are horrible. You need to change your pricing. And by the way, charge for this, this, and this, and escalate this piece. I didn't have that. So my profit margins were kind of bullshit at the time. So this is like 2018. And I just got to a point where I was like, I'm kind of fed up with this whole budgeting thing. I'm bored. Like, I work all the time. I feel like I'm never rewarded for it. We're living in a rental on $60,000 a year. We barely have enough money to pay for like our coaching and go out for a nice dinner. And like my treat after working my ass off is a $20 manicure. So like, what's the point of this? I don't want to do this anymore. This is stupid. And so having these conversations, I would cry and I would just be like, I don't want to do this. Like, I want to shut the business down. Like, this was a common conversation. I would just tell my husband, like, I'm going to go work at a bank. I'm going to go work at a grocery store. I'm going to go work retail. Like, this is not the vibe. And I would have these conversations and he would say, you just need to buckle down. You need to stop spending money. You just stay more committed. And, you know, in 5 years, you're going to be so happy you did. And I'm like, I will be dead in 5 years. Like, I can't like this. So your girl does something sneaky. And this transformed the way I look at women in business. So instead of spending my husband's money from his job on the stuff that I wanted and always feeling like I needed permission, is anyone, you know, we're going to be honest here, it's all women here. Anybody sick of asking for fucking permission or asking for money or running it by your spouse before you make a purchase? Like, I was not available for that. I was like, before I met you, I made nice money and I did what I wanted with it. And all of a sudden, like, now I have to ask you for money because my brand isn't profitable and you have all the money right now. Like, no. So in 2019, and a little bit before that in 2018, I started increasing my profit margins on my brand. And I started figuring out how to hold on to more money. And it really escalated in 2019 when I hired my first private coach and she showed me how to get my profit margins to like 80%. And I was like, geez Louise, could have learned that a long time ago. Thanks. And I started working with my tax advisor to figure out how to write off all the opulent things that I wanted to do as business expenses. Ooh, sneak. So I wanted to travel the world. And up to that point, my husband's job was not available for paying for that and our lifestyle. And so I was like, what can I do here? Well, I could schedule makeup classes in other countries and spend the correct percentage of my trip doing makeup classes in other countries and working with private clients in other countries. And the rest of it, we can like go have opulent experiences. And I kind of don't care if I don't come home with any cash. I am happy to spend all the cash that I make selling makeup stuff on experiences in Europe. Here for it, sign me up. So watch, diligence creates opulence, and opulence inspires diligence, and diligence creates opulence, and opulence inspires diligence. Let me tell you, the first time that I pulled this little sneaky sneak, it was like, oh, hang on. I want to go to Europe. I want to go to New Zealand. I want to go to all these places. So what diligent thing do I have to do? Let's see, use my company to create live events, to schedule in other countries, so that I can go and sell some makeup to fund the airplane ticket. Okay. So I get the airplane ticket and hook up with my friends, fly to another country, make more money in another country with makeup and makeup classes and private coaching and all these things that I was doing. And that funds the opulence in the country. And this opulent experience inspires the living daylights out of me, gives me more high-level experiences to relate to high-level people with, because all of a sudden I'm in a new conversation because I can say, I've been to Europe. I've been to all these countries. I stopped here. I did this. I did that. I've been to Paris. I've been to London. I've been to Riga. I've been to all these different places. I walked the Baltic Sea. I've been in the Red Sea. I've been in all these amazing places. Opulence puts you in another conversation. And after seeing the art and experiencing the nature and experiencing the beauty, this opulence fed my work ethic, because I was like, oh shit, I've found the Holy Grail. I can do that again. When can I do it again? How can I do it again? Where do I want to go? And I used my business as my way to travel the world. Oh, sneaky. I meet women every single month who have huge desires for opulent things, and they're begging someone for money to do it, asking for permission, asking their spouse. And I'm like, how about if we activate both sides of this wealth equation? What if we activate pushing on the limits, seeing what you're made of, doing something with a personal brand, starting your coaching business, starting your consultancy, hosting private retreats, taking your magic into the world and charging appropriately for it, okay? Charge appropriately for it. We're in business, not ministry, sister, okay? Letting the diligence pay for the opulence and letting the opulence inspire you to more diligence. This is the wealth accumulation cycle. You get good at this art, and there comes a day when there's more money than you have space to spend. It's amazing. So when the conversations with my husband and I were him crying and saying, can't you just sacrifice for longer? And me crying, saying like, no, the fuck I can't. I got kind of sneaky and said, my business can actually pay for all the nice things that I want, and I never have to ask anyone for anything again. Oh, the Holy Grail has been activated. And since 2019, I've made multi-millions out of a place of pleasure, indulgence, saying yes to what I want, and finding creative ways to write it off with my tax advisor. I firmly believe that you can have everything that you want on the way to the life of your dreams. I firmly believe that you can enjoy yourself and have the pussy tingles on the way to opulence and wealth accumulation. Once my husband saw this and he started enjoying the accoutrements of the success, because I'm like, well, why don't you come with me? Like, why don't we both go? Why don't we schedule it for around your birthday? I took him to Europe twice for his birthday. We just happened to go when it was aligned with a business conference, and I did makeup classes over there. Twice. Tax write-off. Right? I know, Sherry, I thought you might appreciate that. By the way, Sherry is a life and intimacy coach for women 40 plus, and she's a whole vibe. So if you're looking for a woman to have those conversations with, she's your girl. She's one of my private clients. She's amazing. Okay. So sneaky, but once he started experiencing it, he was like, girl, you just made how much money? We're doing what? Yes. And my husband stopped he stopped cock blocking himself from enjoying life, because he's like, girl, you have magic money. Like, I don't know what you're doing or how you're doing it, but like, damn, I'll just be over here taking care of everything. Baby, I will do the dishes. I will run payroll. I will help you with the kids. He's got both the kids right now while I'm live, because he's like, girl, you just make magic money. Money just flows to you. Do your thing, chicken wing. I got you. It is beautiful. And he has his own brand and he makes his own money too. But like, it's amazing. But the thing that I notice is that a lot of women who have the possibility of making 2 times, 3 times, 5 times, 10 times what they are making in their current job, their partners don't understand the possibilities. And so I have all these women in my world who are on a similar wealth trajectory to me. It's like they could be making millions of dollars. I love the comments. Right? But if your partner is jaded about the coaching industry, they don't understand that mentorship is a literal $22 billion industry right now, annually, this year, they'll be like, what the fuck are you doing? You're in a pyramid scheme. And when you two are not on the same trajectory, you've got someone in your house fighting against you. Not understanding the business expenditures, the number one, hiring a coach, which was my first move. I spent $12,000 on my first private mentor, and it was all the money that I even had in the bank. I was squirreling it away for a down payment for a house, and I gave it to a mentor, right? But by then, my husband was on board with it. He was like, girl, go, do it. And every time that I want to spend money on mentorship and coaching, he's like, can you get 10x out of it? And I'm like, yes, I can. And if it's a doubt, I don't. I don't move until I know in me. Because here's the thing about private mentorship and coaching is like it's not the coach's thing to like give you the money. It's not that you hire a coach and then you become wealthy. It's like you hire the mentor and you get in there and do the activations and ask the questions. And I've walked in a lot of spaces with other women where I got 10x and the other women didn't. I walked in many masterminds where people walked in and by the end of it, they hated the coach and were talking shit or quitting or villainizing the coaching industry. And I'm over here, I'm like, I got my 10x. I don't know what happened with you, girl, but like I walked in with balanced energetics. I'm here for pushing the limits and doing the hard things. And also I'm going to reward myself left, right, and center with all the opulence that I want on the way there, because I know that opulence gives me sustainability to keep working. A lot of women don't get that. They're in one of the other camps. They're like, I'll work when I feel aligned, or I'm going to work until I die. And neither of those work. You got to have both and for wealth, right? So I walk into all of my relationships coaching wise, and they are a business expense, and I do write them all off on my taxes, and I buy the most opulent coach I can afford. Or can't afford. Team used debt for that. Team paid the debt off, right? But I buy myself into conversations like this with people who like don't bat an eye to spend money, because they know that wealth begets wealth and abundance begets abundance and opulence attracts opulence. And the more opulent experiences you have, the higher level conversation you can hold and the more opulence you attract. You start doing 7-figure things and 7-figure clients come to you. You go to 7-figure locations like Grand Hotel or the places that we do our retreats at, and there's wealth in the walls of the places, and you walk away going like, holy shit, I was just part of like a place that's world renowned and billion-dollar conversations happen there, and I'm different. I came away changed. You can hold a different level of person after that. So this was a little bit different of a conversation. And if you are not someone who is like dead serious about, you know, you're made for wealth, this conversation can get you in a lot of trouble. Anyone here could take one of the sentences that I said out of context and go get themselves in hundreds of $1,000s worth of debt. And if you don't have balanced energetics, like, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. If you're not made for wealth, this is not for you. If you are not dedicated to reparenting yourself and getting past issues around work and issues around rewarding yourself, like, this is not for you. You're going to get yourself in a lot of trouble. This is why I stand for long-term mentorship, because you could take one sentence that I said and get yourself in a lot of trouble. Or you can continue the conversation for a year and freaking heal. It's like the diet. It's like me saying, well, you can eat chocolate every day. You heard that part, right? Did everyone hear me say that? If you heard me say, what if you could eat chocolate every day? If you heard me say that, write chocolate every day, okay? I did say that. And also I said that there was balance. So someone here could be like, yeah, but Xtina said that I can eat whatever I want every day. And you might, for the next year of your life, eat chocolate cake every day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner and be like, Xtina said that I can. I'm like, you missed the point. You missed it. You missed it. You missed the balance. You missed what I said entirely. And money is the same. I am vying for you to give yourself opulent experiences, to hire the mentor, go to the retreat, get yourself into 7-figure conversations, go to high-level retreat places, buy yourself nice things, right? I'm vying for women in business to do this. And also, if you do that without the balance of having a work ethic and becoming self-made, like, you're going to get yourself in a lot of trouble. Don't come blame me. If you're looking to blame me, blame your partner, tell people it's my partner's fault. My partner won't let me. I'm begging my partner. You want to blame your partner or your spouse. This is not the right conversation for you, because I couldn't do that. If I would have begged, cried, pleaded, and blamed Brad, I wouldn't be saying, oh yeah, my brand's about to celebrate $3 million in lifetime sales. And also, we did $1 million in sales in about a year. Like, I wouldn't be able to say that if I was just waiting for Brad to fix it. If I was in my feminine, and if I was in my wounded feminine, if I was begging for someone to fix my life, both sides of the coin had to be there. I wouldn't be here saying the things that I'm saying or teaching what I'm teaching out of experience if I wouldn't have stepped up to the plate and had work ethic, and also found ways to reward myself and not beg other people to fix it for me. This is for the woman who knows that you are meant to be self-made. And self-made, I say that, in honor of all the coaches that I've walked with. But I self-made the way to have those relationships. I self-made the money to pay for it. I self-made the resources to fund it. And then I paid for it. There's a lot of different ways that you can find resources. And some of you, God bless it, you've got even family members or people who would give you the money for it, or you have money sitting around stacked up. But my point is, there's women here who are meant to be self-made, and you're supposed to be part of the movement of women's energetics and magic money and the $20 billion plus coaching industry that's happening right now. The time of our lives is at hand. Like, literally, you can make as much money as you want any day that you want to do it. You just got to learn how and apply. Like, literally. We are in an unprecedented time. Our mothers didn't have these options. Our grandmothers didn't have these options. We get to live on behalf of our ancestors and have the life of our dreams and all the opulence that money can buy. And the only thing in the way is actually your own limitations. We are in a well-resourced time where you can actually reparent yourself. We're in a time when women can create all the wealth in the world and, independent of our partners, and also have amazing relationships with our partners. We're a generation of healers. The consciousness is rising. We're part of it. To me, it's the greatest time in history. And the only thing in the way is you. Radical self-responsibility. A radical mirror for self around worth, around our self-worth, around how we are parented, reparenting ourselves, work ethic, pleasure, indulgence, reward, which feeds work ethic and pleasure and indulgence and rewards. Wow. You can have it all. You can enjoy yourself on the way to the wealth of your dreams. And to be clear, the women that I really see winning, the women who have mentored me on the way, they enjoy their lives on the way there. They're not cock-blocking themselves from their desires on the way to wealth. They are enjoying it the whole way there. And the enjoyment is fueling them with the sustainability to keep going and building radical, wild, crazy, unprecedented wealth for this time. So today was a doozy. It was a big one. This is the conversation where I say, throw the debt diet in the trash. Literally, if you know you're made for wealth, fuck the budget. Wow, that's different. This is the part where I say, I love my relationship. I walk in unity with my spouse, and also, I am my own hero. And we live in a time where you get to be self-made. And that can actually contribute to unity with your partner. But it matters that you're on the same trajectory. And speaking of that, I really want to invite you to a couple different things. So the following invitations are for the woman who is like me and you're meant for big wealth. You just know it in your bones. You're ready to be happy on the way to wealth. I have 3 things for you. The first one is for the person who has a partner who doesn't get it. My husband and I spent years together where he didn't get it. And I had a hard time with his way of thinking. But until he could see it and he could experience it and he could go there with me and he could understand the coaching industry, mentorship, online sales, what it takes, the work ethic, and also that there has to be pleasure on the way. Until he experienced it, it was really hard. But once we got on the same trajectory, it was like, okay, fireworks, bright popping lights, he gets it, the support is there. I work with women every year. Since 2019, I've worked with women who their partner just doesn't get it. And they're trying to build wealth and their partner's fighting it. Because the partner's like, you're in a pyramid scheme. What are you doing? And men are rational, God bless them, and they need evidence. And it can help a man to understand this whole dynamic if they can see it live in action with another man. So my husband and I, we put it on our vision board this year, our vision list, that we wanted to have an on-location event for New Year's Eve. We wanted to celebrate New Year's Eve in a cool location. And we are hosting a group event. Now, when I say group, it's a small group. We have rented the most cool location with limited tickets. Some have already sold. But it's a New Year's Eve event called Trajectory. It's actually 3 nights. It's a 3-night stay. Your 3-night stay is included at a luxury location. All your meals are provided. Check-in is December 30th. So we have a dinner together on the 30th as a group. New Year's Eve, we're together the whole day doing unifying exercises, trajectory mapping, strategic goal setting, visioning, and planning for families and brands to be in alignment in 2023. We're celebrating New Year's Eve together, and then we're spending the entire day on the first of the year together as well to lock it in, to solidify it. Checkout is the 2nd of January. Now, you can attend this as a single person if you want to. It's $7,777 to attend as an individual. But if you want to come as a couple, the couple rate is $9,999, so only $2,000 more. If you want to come to this because you know that you don't want to walk through 2023 by yourself, figuring it out, and you do want that accountability, but you don't have a partner, you can actually come on the couple rate with your business bestie. So if you have someone that they get your brand, it's like your best friend in business or even like your business partner, you can also bring them at the couple rate of $9,999 for 2 people. It's just you're sharing a room. You got to be cool with sharing room, okay? You got to be down with that. So Trajectory is the first offer that we have for today for the person who's like, yes, I want to put myself in luxury environments. I want to put myself in multi-7-figure conversations, and I want to map my trajectory with someone else who gets it. And if your spouse doesn't get it and you need them to get it in order for you to thrive this year, this is the thing for you. Come celebrate the turn of the new year and map out a year and get your partner on the same page. Location is a private location, but it's 30 minutes away from the Atlanta airport. So private luxury location, 30 minutes away from ATL airport. That's all I can say. If you buy a ticket, we'll tell you where it is. So our first event offer for today is called Trajectory. It's either $7,777 per person or $9,999 for a couple, and a couple rate can be used for your biz bestie. So it's offer number 1. Get yourself to the place where we do our retreats. I promise you, there's like a time portal there. It's a manifestation portal. You will be a different human being when you leave. The people who did our last retreat said that it felt like they were accessing the them of 6 months or a year out. And I was like, yep, that's about accurate. It's a world-renowned place and it's private. So that's all I can say about it. So that's offer number 1, Trajectory. Offer number 2 for today is something that I kind of touched on yesterday, but I'd like to shine a little bit more of a light on it. Every year I do something called Locked and Loaded. So the 2023 version of Locked and Loaded is opening up in January. Now, right now, if you buy the 2022 version, it's $15K paid in full. You get a huge content bank. It's all classes for a year and VIP days with me every month, group mastermind VIP. However, when it restarts in January, we're going to be closing out the content bank for 2022, and anyone who's signing up for 2023 Locked and Loaded is starting fresh. So the content bank starts again and we rebuild from scratch. Right now, to join for 2023, starting in January, it's not $15K paid in full, it's $11,000. So $11,111, 11111 to join for the year. or you can pay monthly installments of $1,111. What Locked and Loaded gives you is all of my courses for a year. I walk with women who are coming from corporate America. They're executives. They're people who have the capacity to become a private consultant or a coach, and they want to start their online brand. These are also women who are excited to sell more in the online space, but they don't really have a personal brand yet, and so we create it. It's everything that I had to learn on the way to building a personal brand: copywriting, video content creation, how to create a Facebook group, Instagram, Reels creation, selling. It's all the things that I had to know to get to 7 figures, and I teach it over the course of a year. So right now, Locked and Loaded for 2023 is in pre-sale. You can either pay in full, and it's $11,111, or you can do monthly installments and start now. It's $1,111 for 12 payments. When you do that right now, you get the last 2 programs of the year, which I went in depth about yesterday. They are my energetics courses. I teach these every year. Rev Chill and Iconic, you get those as my gift if you start if you start Locked and Loaded now for 2022. But something came to me when I was in the shower. My team doesn't even know about this. There's not even a link created for it yet because it just came to me. I believe in going for the opulence. I believe in putting yourself in opulent environments. I believe in pulling up a physical chair at high-level conversations. I believe in exposing yourself to ideas and locations that are outside of you, bigger than normal. Experiential opulence. I believe in that. And because of that, I highly, highly believe in in-person events, retreat events, upscale events. There's a lot of weird people selling events that are not very upscale. This is not that. Okay. We have 2 upscale events coming. One is Trajectory. The other one is my highest level business retreat that happens in February. I want to say it's February 17th to 20 something. It's like 7 days. Okay. So both of these in-person events, they're around 7,000 to 10,000 each. Also, for context, private mentorship with me is $11,000 a month. So for private access to me is $11K. I think what I would love is for 2 people, I want to offer something wild. The value of this is $30,000. The components of this are your choice of retreat. You can come to Trajectory. You can bring your business bestie or your spouse if you want. $10K value. Either way. Either you want to come to Trajectory or the business retreat, $10K value. Okay. Access to Locked and Loaded for a year, starting in January. $11,000 value. Access to the 2 last programs of the year, Rev Chill and Iconic, another $1,000 value. And a month of private coaching with me to get you ready to come to retreat. This is an above $30,000 value for 2 people. I'm going to offer it at $22K. This is not a payment plan thing. This is a paid in full offer. I haven't even offered private coaching since before I had my baby. But for 2 people, I'm going to open up private coaching as well as a retreat and Locked and Loaded. So if that speaks to you, you can message us personally. We'll put together the link for you because it doesn't even exist. My team didn't even know that I was doing this. But these are the things that I want to encourage you for. If you are the person who's like me, you're like, I know I'm made for 7 figures. I know I'm made for wealth. Give yourself the gift of opulence. Give yourself a seat at the big girl table. Give yourself access to in-person events. Give yourself the trajectory. Give yourself the support. Enjoy yourself on the way there. The gift of sustainability. All right, my lovies. My team will put links out for trajectory as well as Locked and Loaded. Actually, the links are up already. Your gift, if you join Locked and Loaded, are my last 2 programs of the year, Rev Chill and Iconic. And if you're interested in the 22K offer, it is a pay in full. Okay, message me if you want one of the 2 spots. Tammy says, is the private coaching weekly? Yes, you will get a private call with me every single week and Voxer or Marco Polo access in between the calls for a month to get you ready for retreat, whichever one you pick. Okay, love you guys. This was so fun. Let me know in the comments section, or you can just write a separate post, what shifted in you after these 3 days together. I hope it was iconic.